If you want to start or grow your personal brands to attract clients, to attract opportunities, you're not actually playing the game of personal branding. You're playing the game of attention. And this video right here is going to explain how you can win the game of attention. I'm Anton. I've worked with people like Dalen and other online entrepreneurs with one main aim: to grow their personal brand to attract clients and opportunities. Recently, Naval said the most important resource is not time, it's attention. Because since the beginning of human history, the people who win are the ones who can influence others. Think politicians, artists, musicians, people capable of seducing the masses and captivating millions. Nevertheless, people often fail to realize what influence really is. For many, it's about ego. They see the spectacle, they see the followers, the noise, but they miss what's underneath, and that is the power, the influence, the leverage. Influence is like an invisible hand. You can't see it or touch it, but you can feel it. It will get you in rooms that most can't even access, reveal information that nobody knows, and open doors you didn't even know existed. But this was something only a few could experience not long ago. Influence was reserved for kings, prophets, generals, all the truly gifted with the power to hijack the public eye. It was expensive. It required armies, temples, and statues. Until now. After the rise of social media, attention became decentralized. For the first time ever in human history, any individual could earn attention at scale. With nothing but a Wi-Fi connection, you can now influence more people than most Roman emperors would have ever even imagined. This means having presence in rooms across the world, in countries you've never even stepped foot in. It means opportunities can come to you effortlessly. It means being able to access conversations with the most powerful people of our time. And most importantly, the chance to control your own narrative. But this sudden change has split society into two: those who have learned to master attention and those who have become invisible. But most don't realize that you actually are the product. You are the ever compounding asset. Your level of influence depends on your ability to funnel attention to yourself, because this is what personal brand really is. It's the ability to influence other people's behaviors at scale. And if this right here is a game that we're all playing, that no one can escape, this leaves us with only one question, and that is, how do you win the game of attention? And in the next 20 minutes, or however long this video is going to be, I'm going to be going over 3 things that you can implement today, straight after this video, to build a personal brand that unlocks huge levels of influence and opportunities. And we'll be covering the 3 main topics of how to capture attention, how to retain attention, and how to convert attention. By the way, if you want to take your personal brand a lot more seriously and have a whole strategy to be able to grow, then go to createcommunity.com. Book a call and you'll talk to either me or my co-founder directly, and we can see if we can help you. Most start a personal brand with no goal in mind, so you need to know, why are you building a personal brand? People like Stephen Butler built a personal brand to be able to access a huge network of top people. So capture, retain, convert. Let's start with capturing attention. Quick disclaimer, and that is, influence is not actually a goal in itself. It's a vehicle to be able to access opportunities. Iman Gadzhi started his channel for one main thing, which is to be able to get clients and to get sales. So think for yourself, if you're starting or growing a personal brand, what's the aim? What do you want to get out of it? What is the main outcome? The very first goal is getting people to notice you, to know that you exist. To be able to influence, you first need to be known. So how do you build a brand that cuts through all the noise and stands out in the market? Well, there's 2 different words, which is differentiation and distribution. Let's start with differentiation. For example, why did Daniel Dalen, someone we've worked closely with, stand out and grow so fast compared to everyone here? Well, because he was different. Everyone here is selling something. Everyone here is moving with the same playbook. Daniel introduced vlogs in an online business market that wasn't even used to vlogs. In the business niche, everyone did the exact same thing. The objective was gurus trying to preach or sell you something in a highly edited, highly scripted, highly polished way. This is what people call the TikTokification of social media, where everyone is competing to gain attention through a short form platform. So what Daniel did is go the complete opposite direction, where his objective was bring people as part of the journey to document and inspire them, where his style was unscripted, unedited vlogs, unseen in the online entrepreneurship niche, where the format was long, raw YouTube videos. Why did Andrew Tate go so viral? Well, while everyone was going one way, he went extreme on the complete opposite direction. And that's why he grew to extreme crazy levels of fame. Well, how do you become really truly unique and different in the market? Well, these are all the different ways that you can stand out and be different. First is the visual style. So this is your editing, your colors, the thumbnails you use, the colors you use. Then is communication. How's your tone? How's your pacing? How's your vibe? That's going to impact how different you sound compared to everyone else. What's your philosophy and values? Do you have a different worldview, a different narrative, a different perspective that's going to make you stand out? What is your personal story? Is your personal story different compared to everyone else that's going to make you stand out? your physical identity. People like Iman Gadzhi that dominated the old money trend, and that physical identity connected with him. People like Hormozy that you can visually identify physically with his tank tops. Next is breaking platform norms. People like Luke Belmer that used Telegram, that was usually used just to send messages here and there, as almost a replacement for a newsletter. People like Casey Neistat, where he created almost the concept of vlogs in the first place. And finally is terminology. This applies a lot more to the online business niche, but creating your own terms, your own definitions, your own language. People like Eddie Cumberbatch that created and owned the term growth operator, signed a stage with IPGA, and Serge Guattari with Build and Release, which means that every time someone mentions one of these terms, it relates back to them. The game of attention is based on one core principle. If you don't stand out, you disappear. However, in real life, standing out is what people equate to danger. We are wired to hide in the pack, to not stand out, and we fear the consequences of doing so. That's why if you check the online space, you'll see everyone copies everyone else. It's very hard to see originality in the space. And the reason for this is people have a deep desire for belonging to a tribe, to a group, to a way of doing things. This is one of the most important principles that you need to understand. If you copy everyone, you will be no one. Most people do the exact same thing to capture attention. This is never going to change because the pattern works like this. It's called a pendulum effect, where someone creates a trend, then it gets mass adoption, then the trend dies, and then the trend comes back again when it's been oversaturated. Everyone jumps onto the next shiny object. When a certain strategy or message gets used too much, it loses its impact. We've seen it time and time again. Something feels fresh, it grabs attention, then suddenly it's everywhere. And once it's everywhere, it stops working because people get bored very fast. I'm sure you've received these messages time and time again. Are you a coach or consultant? I'll get you 5 to 10 qualified sales calls, you don't pay. Can you handle 5 more clients at the moment? Attention moves in cycles, not just forward. And when everyone adopts something, then it stops working. Let me show you a simple example. Let's look at webinar funnels. 4 years ago, webinar funnels were incredibly popular. They were on a huge trend where everyone was using these, and these were printing cash. These were working so well. However, just like the pendulum effect that I explained, when everyone started mass adopting and started doing webinars, then guess what? People got bored of it, it was oversaturated, and it died. And this is where you can see a couple of years ago, people saying that webinars don't work anymore. However, now, webinars are making a huge comeback. Even people like Iman Gadzhi, who've never done a webinar before, started doing them. Why? Because everyone left the trend. So now there's space to be able to jump back in again and be different. Next is distribution. So now that you're different, you need people to see you. Because without having eyes, then you're not going to build a brand that's able to scale. This is where you take advantage of some of the best social media platforms right now, which are short form and long form platforms that have very strong algorithms that can push your content very hard. And YouTube is always a central piece of the ecosystem just because it's the most powerful. But how do you know that you've found resonance? Well, you found market resonance when others start copying you. And if you do something that's truly different with a good distribution, this is going to happen really fast. But how do you craft the trends that everyone adopts? Well, there's one strategy that we use when we worked with Daniel, for example, called audience leverage distribution. So a bit about what we did is we incentivized people to adopt Daniel's lifestyle, to document their business, and to build in public with Daniel's signature POV thumbnail. And we created a community distribution system, which is infinite leverage. We built a community and incentivized people to build in public and to post POV thumbnails, meaning that the trend was starting to be mass adopted. Your content being adopted on a mass scale means unlimited organic reach. And this mass adoption content strategy allowed Daniel to reach his followers' audience, igniting a chain reaction and amplifying his brand reach beyond his own individual capacity. If you see people like Andy Frisella, he created 75 Hard, a challenge that was mass adopted, that leveraged other people to create a viral effect, where now even the trend of 75 Hard and the challenge is even bigger than Andy Frisella in the first place. So now that you've created attention, how do you retain attention? Because there is no influence without trust. Once you've captured attention, you need to now achieve influence. You need to build trust and retain that attention. Influence is what happens when people not only remember you, but follow you, believe you, and act because of you. And for that to happen, trust must be created. But trust doesn't happen by chance, it happens as a result of building a relationship. But here's a problem. Humans are very skeptical by nature. I'm sure you've seen these ads where it says, nice try, Diddy. People are very skeptical, especially in a world where every single person seems to be selling them something, selling them a dream. So how do you get people to trust you? How do you accelerate the emotional closeness with your audience while still being authentic? Well, let me show you something. Here's Hormozi and here's John. The thing is, John is actually way more qualified than Hormozi. John has been doing business for several decades and scaled billion-dollar companies. But guess what? You don't trust John. I don't trust John. No one trusts John. Why? Because I see Hormozi all the time. I see his content. I see him surrounded by top people. I see him on all platforms. And John, well, John, I don't see anything from him. So is it skills that determine the level of trust you have with someone? Well, not really. It's exposure and connection. The human brain trusts what it sees over and over again. If I log into Twitter and I see a tweet by Hormozi, and then go on Instagram and see a reel by Hormozi, then I see him on a podcast, then I see a TikTok by him, I see him on YouTube, I see him on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna slowly trust him more and more, just for exposure. And next is connection. Obviously, seeing someone over and over again is very powerful, but you need to still be able to build a connection, because humans connect with other humans, and exposure is not enough. To gain people's hearts, you need to be transparent or authentic. People like Iman Gadzhi that recorded his whole entire life, people really connected and resonated with him. People like James Smith that creates content being really real and transparent about his life and the mistakes he's committed. And then to take this strategy to a next level, you can invite people into private spaces to communicate directly with them. Something like an online community, a close friend strategy, an email list. Basically a place where you own your audience, where you're immune to bans, algorithm swings, where there's no competition on the screen. So now you have attention, now you have trust, and you built retention. How do you convert that intention into opportunities? And by the way, this is actually the easiest step. Everyone thinks monetization and conversion is the hardest step. It's the easiest step if you have step 1 and step 2 correct. Now, the obvious is converting to money, selling an offer, getting clients, but there's actually something even more powerful, and that's opportunities that money can't buy. This is where you can really turn life into a video game, a film where you can do what you want, where you want, and meet who you want. People like Simon Squibb. Simon Squibb sold his company and was worth multiple millions before even starting a personal brand. So he didn't start a personal brand to make money. He started it to be able to connect with billionaires and some of the biggest people on the market that he would never be able to meet, even with his net worth. People like David Fogarty that was able to be on Shark Tank because of his personal brand. A huge famous example, look at Ryan Serhant, who got a Netflix show just because of how powerful his personal brand was. People like Liam Otterly, who's built so much trust and so much authority in the AI space. Not because he's the best or the most qualified, but because he has the most trust and the most eyes. People like Iman Gadzhi that's able to get equity and to invest in companies for a very low price just because of the power of their brand. People like Daniel, who's hired 100% of his team from his personal brand, where he can hire some of the best people in the market that are willing to work for him, that most people would fight over just because he's built a powerful brand.